Estamos grabando la clase del día 18 de octubre de UMCE, grupo 3, ¿sí? Adjectives, taken from a comprehensive grammar of the English language, written by Randolph Quirk, right? It's quite an old book, but really, really good one. Okay, I'm going to read this, and then I'm going to try to provide some further comments on this. However, we have already done this before during our previous lesson. Okay, so adjectives. Adjectives, they can freely occur in attributive function. That is to say, they can pre-modify a noun appearing between the determiner and the head of a noun phrase, right? Okay, we're dealing with the idea that we can actually create where we can say that adjectives can be differentiated, I would say, in 4 different ways. The very first of them is whether they are attributive or not. An attributive adjective is a premodifier, and that's it. And as it is said, the attributive adjective is placed between the determiner and the noun. Therefore, in all the 3 different examples, we're seeing attributive adjectives. An ugly painting, the round table, and dirty linen. That's on the one hand. On the other hand, we can have more than one attributive adjective in every single noun phrase, right? Let's remember that adjectives can be 8, and there's a formula for that. We discussed this during our previous lesson. You can have 8 different adjectives, and all of them working as a premodifier in front of a noun head. The other interesting stuff would be, or we can argue that, okay, if one adjective or 8 different adjectives are attributive, if they are actually providing information about the noun head in which they are placed, then can we say that an adjective phrase is attributive or not? That would be a very good, a very interesting question. In the example for, let's take, for example, the following. If I say something like this, very beautiful house, right? Very beautiful house. Then I know that's a noun phrase with an adjective phrase in it, right? Right. So it's a noun phrase with this adjective phrase inside of it. And the attributive adjective says that we're going to call attributive to all those adjectives which are placed inside of a noun phrase performing the role of a premodifier, and they are placed between the determiner and the noun head. The question is, then what's this adjective phrase? Is it attributive or not? I won't say that. I won't say it's attributive, because when we're dealing, or when we're referring to attributive adjectives, we're dealing with the idea of a premodifier, a single premodifier. The only question I have is whether the unit can be considered attributive, and I think it is, even though it's not an adjective, but as an adjective phrase, it then it entails some of the attributes of an adjective, right? But they are not considered attributive adjective phrases. That's the thing. Okay. Second thing. B. An adjective can also be predicative. That is to say, they can function as subject complement or as an object complement. Like in, for example, the painting is ugly and he thought the painting ugly. The painting is ugly and he thought the painting ugly. Give me a second. The painting is ugly, right? We're going to call this adjective phrase as predicative, because it, this ugly, right, is performing the role of a subject complement, because it's providing information about the subject. Now let's say a couple of things about complements, right? Complements. We have discussed the idea of a complement uh, for quite a long time now, so far, I would say. And we have always said they belong to the valency pattern idea. A complement then complements, right? It provides information about other units. It could be, therefore, a subject complement or an object complement, right? Right. As they are providing information about other units, they are usually adjective phrases, even though they can be some other stuff as well. On the one hand, um, then the presence of a complement requires the presence of a certain verb. When I say certain verb, I'm talking about the main verb, the verb head inside of the verb phrase, the main verb phrase. Therefore, ugly is considered to be a subject complement because it requires the presence of the verb to be in front of it, right? The form is. As a consequence of this, subject complements are usually connected or they are linked to the idea of linking verbs, right? And they receive other name. They are also called copular verbs, right? There's a group of them. Like in, for example, this second example, he thought the painting ugly. So again, what we have in here is a sentence. We have a sentence, and this sentence is composed of a noun phrase subject, a verb phrase verb. He thought what? The painting, right? This is a noun phrase object. And then how is this painting? This painting is ugly. So all over again, it's an adjective phrase complement, but an object complement. Why object complement? Because it's providing information about the painting, right? So there you have two different examples for both of them. The other element that we must discuss is the idea of predicate or predication, they call it, right? Uh, predicate. A predicate is what's being said about the subject, right? Therefore, and in practical terms, a predicate would be everything inside of a sentence except the subject, right? Because all the rest of the sentence is what's being said about the subject, right? So in this example, he thought the painting ugly. Then the subject is he, and then the predicate would be thought the painting ugly. And in the second example, the painting is ugly. The subject is the painting, and then the predicate is ugly. In very beautiful house, there's no predicate. Why? Because that's not a clause. It is just a phrase, right? Right. All over again. Attributive adjectives are inside of noun phrases as premodifiers, and predicative adjectives are um, complements, subjects or object complements. Next, 4 criteria for adjectives. See, they can be pre-modified by the intensifier very. The children are very happy. Can they be intensified? Okay, here we have some other names. Adverbs can pre-modify adjectives. We know that. Therefore, you can add further meaning. Those meanings are usually related to the idea of, or to two different ideas. To intensify, to move up, or to decrease, right? To downtone. Therefore, adjectives, pre-modifiers inside of adjective phrases, they can be divided into two, into intensifiers and downtoners. Downtoners, right? Let's take, for example, the following. I can say, for example, this. Okay, I can say, so we're talking about adjective phrases, phrases, and inside of an adjective phrase, you can have an adverb premodifier. And this adjective premodifier can be classified into two, into intensifier, for example, very, or into downtoners, downtoner, for example, less. If I say, for example, very beautiful, it's not just beautiful, it's much more than that, right? So therefore I intensify the meaning. On the other hand, I can say less beautiful, and in that case I reduce the meaning, I decrease the meaning. It's a downtoner, and that's it. Therefore, the third form in which we can differentiate adjectives is whether they can be intensified or not. Like in, for example, the children are very happy. Therefore, the adjective phrase very happy is composed of the adjective head happy and the adverb premodifier very. And very is an intensifier. Finally, 4 criteria for adjectives. They can take comparative and superlative forms. The comparison may be by means of inflection or by the addition of premodifiers, more and most. And when we use that, we're calling that thing a periphrastic comparison, right? So yeah, adjectives can have 2 other forms, I would say, and those forms are comparative and superlative, right? Right. Um, the way in which we're going to state these differences are going to vary because of the length, because of the adjective's length, right? If you have a short adjective, then we're going to use an inflection, a bound morpheme, suffix inflectional, right? But if the adjective is long, then we're going to use a periphrastic construction, right? Therefore, we're going to add another item, another linguistic item, so as to provide this meaning. In that respect, then, comparative adjectives, short adjectives, which are going to be changed into comparatives, we're going to use the bound suffix inflectional morpheme er. And for the superlative, the short adjective turned into a superlative, we're going to use the bound morpheme suffix inflectional est, right? Therefore, bigger and biggest. And on the other hand, when we have long adjectives, we're going to use this periphrastic construction. So for comparatives, we're going to use more and then the adjectives and then a preposition, but the preposition is optional, right? And then finally, we're going to use for the superlative, we're going to use the most and then the adjective. Simple, I think. Syntactic functions. Okay, so so we know how to classify adjectives, but the thing is, how do they work inside of a clause or inside of a phrase? Here comes the idea of attributive and predicative, and I won't say much about that, right? So the adjective functions as the head of an adjective phrase with or without modification, right? The adjective function as the head of an adjective phrase with or without modification. Yeah, therefore, once you have an adjective, you can have all the different forms, right? Which are these different forms? These different forms are basically 2. They can be its own head, therefore we are stating the presence of an adjective phrase, or on the other hand, they can be modifiers inside of other structures. In this case, they can be pre-modifiers inside of noun phrases, right? Can I have post modifier adjectives? Yes, I can have it, but I require certain specific context. Like for example, this one. Someone brave is an adjective, is a noun phrase, right? With the pronoun head, someone, and then what you have is an adjective, brave. And in this case, brave is an adjective post modifier. Now, the thing is this, in order to have this, you require the presence of a specific pronoun. The pronoun has the following name, is a compound indefinite pronoun. Therefore, you can use an adjective as a post modifier only if you have as a head inside of a noun phrase a compound indefinite pronoun. Someone brave, anybody strong, and so on and so forth. Okay, so please write that thing down. Write it down. Yeah. Then syntactic functions.
Um,
Dígame.
sorry. What was the name again?
The pronoun is called compound indefinite pronoun. And the
Compound.
indefinite pronoun. They can take adjectives as post modifier.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, and they are, for example, all the ones with any or one, like for example, somebody, anybody, nobody, right? Everybody, and all those related to that idea. Okay, syntactic functions. Adjectives are attributive. I already said this. When they pre-modify the head of a noun phrase, we know that. Adjectives are predicative when they function as subject complement or object complement. I already said that. Adjectives are subject complement not only to noun phrases, but also to clauses which may be finite or non-finite. Oof. Okay. Adjectives are subject complements, right? Right. Adjectives are subject complements. We know that. Yeah. This is the second example we're talking about. The painting is ugly. There, the adjective ugly is a subject complement, right? Right. Yeah. So it's true. Adjectives are subject complements, not only to noun phrases. Okay, so what does it mean? It means that I can take an adjective as a subject complement, not only to a noun phrase subject, but also to a finite or non-finite clause subject. Weird. Let's take a look at this. Okay, we haven't discussed this yet, but what we have in here is the following. That you need a car is obvious. That you need a car is obvious. It's a clause. We know that. It's a clause. Why? Because it's created out of phrases. And one of those phrases is a verb. That you need a car is obvious, right? Right. Then I can see two different verbs, right? Now that's a problem. The problem is I can see two different verbs. So I'm going to ask myself, which out of those two different verbs is the main verb, right? The one which is going to create the main valency pattern. And for that idea, I'm going to try to replace what's in front of a verb with a pronoun, right? Like, for example, that you need a car is obvious. It is obvious. It is obvious, right? What is obvious? That you need a car, right? Okay, so that's a subject. But this subject is not a phrase, it's a clause. How do I know that? Because it has a verb phrase, need. Who needs? You need. And what do you need? You need a car. Is, and then that you need a car is obvious. How is this subject if this subject is obvious? Right, right. So the easiest part, adjective phrase, subject complement, verb phrase, verb. How do I call this thing? Well, this is a clause, first of all. is a clause as well as the other one, right? But it's a clause inside of a clause. Therefore we can call it subordinate clause because it is inside of a it is the it is the subordinate of another clause, a bigger clause. What's a bigger clause? That you need a car is obvious, right? Therefore, that you need a car is part of the other one. As this clause begins with the subordinating conjunction that, therefore it gives its name. So this clause is called that nominal clause, and it acts as a subject. Why is it called that nominal clause? Well, because number one, it begins with that. Number two, it replaces a noun, therefore it's nominal. And you can see with this example that adjective phrases as subject complements, they complement the subject no matter what the subject is, right? The subject can be a noun phrase or it can be a clause. It doesn't matter because the adjective phrase subject complement is complementing the subject, not the form of the subject. And that's all.
Teacher, sorry.
Mhm.
Why it was called a nominal clause?
Because it replaces a noun.
Okay, thank you.
That nominal clause. Okay, let's move on. 9. Syntactic functions. Adjectives can also be objects to clauses. I consider what he did foolish. I don't agree with this idea. Okay, let's take a look at it. I consider what he did foolish. I don't agree with this example. I consider what he did foolish. I don't agree with this idea because, first of all, we need to find out. I consider what he did foolish. We need to find out where is the main verb, right? That's okay. Okay, I consider what he did foolish. Let's take a look at this. Therefore, consider is the verb, I is the subject, noun, phrase, subject, verb, phrase, verb. I consider what he did. This is a clause, right? It's a WH clause. I consider this WH nominal clause, I would say. Why nominal? Right? Because it is because it is replacing a noun phrase. Why? Because objects they tend to be noun phrases. I consider this, right, foolish. I don't agree with the example because, in my opinion, foolish, even though it's an adjective phrase, is providing information, right, about another unit. I considered what he did. How do I consider what he did? How do I consider? How do I consider what he did? I consider that foolish, right? I think this is an object complement, right? Because it's providing information about the object in front of it, about this unit, this whole stuff, right? So I don't agree with that. But yeah, be very careful because adjectives, they can be more than subject complements. I don't like the way in which some books are saying that, for example, this unit can be this or that, because language doesn't work in that way. Language is usually trying to move to open spaces. Therefore, you will always find exceptions, right? So we must be like, this would be my advice, my piece of advice. If I can give you a piece of advice in regarding to grammar and syntax, is read the books, try to figure it out the way in which things work, but ultimately, um, ultimately, you must pay attention to the context instead of trying to put the context into the rules, right? It's trying to work out the rules with the context instead of working the context inside of the rules. It doesn't work in that way, I think, right? So I don't agree with this example. I think foolish all over again. I think foolish is providing information about the WH nominal clause, what it did. Okay, that's my opinion. Sorry. So I don't agree. I don't agree with Randolph Quirk. Syntactic functions. Adjectives can also be
Profe,
positive.
disculpe que lo
Dígame.
interrumpa, pero ¿nos podría dar como un ejemplo para entender a lo que se refería la...
No, yo no considero que esto sea verdad. Eso es lo que me refiero, Soledad. Porque cada vez que te ocupas un adjetivo, ese adjetivo clasifica, no clasifica, pero entrega información respecto a otra unidad. Piénsalo en inglés. Intenta decir un adjetivo que no esté pegado adentro de una noun phrase, así como the house is tall. ¿Quién es tall? La casa. ¿Viste? Ahí entregamos información a the house. Entonces hay un complemento. I consider you like this. Ese like this funciona como un adjetivo, ¿cierto? Porque nos dice I consider you like this. ¿Quién es like this? You. ¿Cachai? Le entrega información a lo otro. Inclusive cuando intentamos ocupar cosas parecidas a adjetivos, siempre terminamos entregando
Claro.
información a otra cosa. ¿Cachai? Por eso me llama profundamente la atención que los adjetivos puedan ser objetos, porque los objetos son entidades.
Perfecto,
¿Cachai?
gracias.
Claro, pero cuando yo ocupo un adjetivo como una entidad, mucho cuidado porque la estoy transformando en un sustantivo entonces, po. ¿Cachai? Piénsalo en un verbo, mira. Write. I write a letter. ¿Sí? I write a letter. He writes a letter. Son verbos, ¿no? I write es una acción. I write a letter genera un balancing pattern. I, subject, write, verb, a letter. Es un object. So what happens if I want to say escritura? Writing, 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 writing. And and as you can see, write es un verbo. Write es un verbo. Writing is a noun. ¿Cuál es el proceso que pasó ahí? Nominalization. Nominalicé el verbo, lo transformé en sustantivo. Es complejo, es complejo, es bien interesante el efecto. Si yo dijera, pensemos cómo ocupar un adjetivo como sustantivo. Ejemplo. Which one do you like the most? The red or the green? Like, for example, I have two different balloons. One is red and the other one is green. So I ask you, which one do you like the most? The red or the green? Right? And in those cases, you can see that red and green are inside of noun phrases, right? Because I'm referring to an entity, even though I'm not writing the entity, balloon or whatever, right? So in these cases, adjectives are performing the roles of nouns. And I would say they are referring to an entity. Therefore, in my personal opinion, they are something like a noun, not adjectives per se anymore, right? In my personal opinion. So I don't agree that much with the idea, with Quirk's idea.
Gracias, profe, sí se entiende.
Okay, adjectives can also be postpositive. Write that thing down, postpositive. They can immediately follow the noun or pronoun they modify. All over again, write that thing down, postpositive. That is to say, adjectives can immediately follow the noun or pronoun they modify. Therefore, here we have the three different forms. Here, the first example is a predicative adjective. The information is useful, right? So we're going to say the adjective useful is predicative. Why? Because it is a subject complement, right? The information subject is verb phrase, useful, adjective phrase, subject complement, right? Second example, attributive. We're going to say that the adjective is attributive if it is inside of a noun phrase acting as a premodifier. Useful information. Therefore, in that phrase, useful information, we have the adjective useful premodifying the noun head information. That's why it's attributive. Finally, we have the exception, postpositive. There, you can see how the adjective, the very same adjective, is placed right after the noun head or the pronoun head, which is modifying, right? Something useful. So those are the three different syntactic functions, right? Predicative, attributive, postpositive. 11. Compound indefinite pronouns. Okay, compound indefinite pronouns. Anyone, anybody, somebody, someone, anywhere, somewhere. Compound indefinite pronouns and adverbs ending in body, one, thing, where can be modified only postpositively. So anyone intelligent can do it. Anyone intelligent can do it. There, as you can see, anyone is a pronoun because it's replacing an entity, right? Anyone intelligent can do it. And then intelligent is, and as you can see, intelligent is right after the noun head. Now, what is who is? Some people say, some people say that the usage of those positive adjectives inside of noun phrases where the head is a compound indefinite pronoun, the usage of those adjectives is because they are a reduced form of a WH clause. Therefore, anyone intelligent can do it is possible because we erased the who is, which is the WH clause, right? Anyone who's intelligent can do it. Second example, I want to try on something larger. And in that example, you can see how something is a pronoun. I want to try on what? Something larger. Something is a pronoun because it's replacing, right, an entity. I prove it because something larger, it answers the question of what, right? I want to try on what? Something larger. What do I want to try on? Something larger, right? Therefore, it's a noun phrase. And as something is a compound indefinite pronoun, then I can have the comparative adjective right after it. Okay. The last one, we're not going anywhere very exciting. We're not going anywhere very exciting. We can see how how anywhere the adverb is being post modified by an adjective phrase, and that's something interesting. Yes, you can have adjective phrases post modifying certain specific words, like the ones that are written on the previous paragraph, right? So anywhere very exciting would end in something like this. It would end in something quite like this. We are not going anywhere very exciting. And then very exciting. This thing apparently is another phrase, right? Adverbial with the adverb head and then the adjective phrase post modifier with the adverb and the adjective head, right? Where are we going? We are not going anywhere, right? Very exciting, interesting, and nothing new, not that difficult. Adjectives with complementation, okay? Pretty much like a prepositional phrase. The complementation can be a prepositional phrase or a to infinitive clause. Oof. Let's take a look at this. Copiar. Okay. Okay. There. I know an actor suitable for the part. How's this actor suitable for the part, right? Right. I'm gonna make this stuff bigger or not now. Okay, so we're going to draw, red. I know, no, you know what? I'm gonna make it bigger because it's too small. I see. So, I know, what do I know? I know an actor. How's this actor suitable for the part? Right? Right. Therefore, this is a noun phrase subject, really fast and easy. Pronoun head. This is the verb phrase verb, also fast and easy. Verb head. This is an actor, right? I know what? I know an actor. This is a noun phrase. Object with the determiner, pre-modifier actor, and now the noun head actor. And then I have this adjective phrase, which is a okay, I know, what do I know? An actor. How's this actor suitable for the part? Therefore, it's an object complement because it's providing information about the actor, right? And then I have suitable, which is the adjective head. And then I have for the part, right? Now, in the slide, they say that adjective phrases can take complements, and these complements can be prepositional phrases or to infinitive clauses. And in this case, you can see how for the part is right after an adjective phrase. Therefore, we have a strong tendency to believe that for the part is part of the adjective phrase, therefore a complement, because you can't erase it. So we have here the prepositional phrase, right? Prepositional phrase, double P. Complement because it's obligatory. And then inside of that, we have, well, the prepositional phrase, right? The preposition head, and then here I have my noun phrase complement. Noun phrase complement, the part, the determiner, pre-modifier, and then the noun head, and that's it. Okay, be careful. Adjective phrases can take prepositional phrases as complements. Second, they have a house larger than yours. Okay, it's the very same idea, right? I won't say much about this because as you can see, then I have a house larger than yours. They have, what do they have? A house. A house that house larger than yours, right? Right. Therefore, than yours is the prepositional phrase. Be careful, than is a preposition. Okay, here we have with something more interesting, I think. The boys easiest to teach were in my class. The boys easiest to teach were in my class. The boys easiest to teach were in my class. Okay, it's a long thing, and I'm looking for the subject. The boys easiest to teach were in my class, and I think they were in my class. They were in my class, right? Right. Therefore, what I have is this. The boys easiest to teach where in my class, right? So here we have our prepositional phrase. Okay, the easiest thing. This is the verb phrase verb, prepositional phrase, where in my class, adverbial, right? So here we have the verb head and now the prepositional phrase over here. So preposition head. This is my noun phrase complement, my class. Determiner, premodifier, noun head, and then the boys easiest to teach. They were in my class. Therefore, this is a noun phrase. Subject with the determiner, premodifier. Boys is my noun head, and then I have easiest to teach. Difficult. What is this? Easiest to teach. Easiest is an adjective, right? Yeah. Is a positive adjective. Right, right. The boys easiest to teach is a positive adjective. Therefore, as I have easiest and then I have to teach, which is a complement, what I have is an adjective phrase. This adjective phrase is the boys were in my class. I think it's a post modifier, I think. And then I have easiest, which is my adjective head. And next to that, I have to teach, which is a verb phrase. Therefore, as it is a verb phrase, is a clause. And as its form is to teach, then is a true infinitive clause acting as a complement. And inside of that, right, as in every single clause, what we have is a verb phrase verb. And inside of that, we have the verb head. Difficult. Okay, let's move on with the other one. No, why do you do that? Okay. Students brave enough to attempt the course deserve to succeed. Students brave enough to attempt the course deserve to succeed. They deserve to, yeah, they deserve, right? So students brave enough to attempt the course deserve to succeed. Right, right. So this is a noun phrase subject, a verb phrase verb. They deserve what? To succeed. To succeed is a verb phrase. Therefore, what I have here is a clause, right? And what's the name for this clause? It's a to infinitive. Yeah, it's a to infinitive clause. They deserve what? To succeed. It's an object. And inside of this, we have the verb phrase, right? This to infinitive clause is created by one single verb phrase, and this one single verb phrase is created by a verb head. And then we have the verb head to succeed. And then we have this huge stuff. Students, this is my noun head, right? Brave enough to succeed. Well, another here all over again, what we have is a post-positive adjective, brave, right? That's the adjective. And then we have something even weirder. Please write this down. The adverb enough is usually used post-positively. That is to say, we're going to put the adverb enough right after the adjective head. So this is a very interesting example, basically because we are repeating the very same effect, that is to say the post position, right? So what we have in here is we have this huge adjective phrase post modifier with the adjective brave as a head. Then we have enough, which is our post-positive adverb, right? Post modifier. And then we have to attempt the course. Beautiful. So here we have our to infinitive clause acting as a complement. Inside of that, we have to attempt, which is the verb phrase verb made out of the verb head. To attempt what? The course, noun phrase subject, right? The course. Wait, that's it. The terminer pre-modifier and the noun head course. Okay. Okay. Interesting, be very careful. 13. Syntactic functions. The post-positive structures can be regarded as reduced relative clauses. Pregunta de cátedra, de prueba. The post-positive structures can be regarded as reduced relative clauses. I know an actor suitable for the part is the reduced form of the relative clause who is suitable for the part. Quite obvious, right? I know an actor who is suitable for the part. Yeah. It's a reduced form. I already said that. Última, syntactic functions. An adjective modified by enough, to, or so can be separated from its complementation. She is brave enough to attempt the course. It's basically the very same we already did, right? She is, how is she? Brave enough to attempt the course. Therefore, the presence of the adverb, the post-positive adverb enough, is separating the adjective head brave from its complement, to attempt the course. And that's it. ¿Alguna pregunta respecto a los adjective phrases según Quirk? No, ya, vamos a revisar lo que dice Viber y estamos por hoy día. Adjective review taken from Viber. Esto iba a ser lo mismo. Okay, defining characteristics of adjectives. Oh, esto está más ordenado. A, morphological characteristics. Adjectives can be inflected to show comparative and superlative degree. Lo sabemos. Syntactic characteristics. They can be attributive and predicative. Lo sabemos. Semantic characteristics. They typically characterize the referent of a nominal expression. They typically characterize al referente o al head de una nominal expression, de una cosa que pareciera ser una noun phrase o una noun phrase. Many of the most common adjectives are central adjectives. New term, write it down, central adjective. That is to say, they share all of these characteristics. Okay, so adjectives can be separated into central and peripheral. Central adjectives can be characterized by containing all the different all the three different characteristics, which are the capacity for morphological change, letter A. B, they can be attributive and predicative. And C, they can characterize a referent. Now, the interesting thing is that in order to label an adjective as a central adjective, that adjective must contain all the three different forms. All these, it must fulfill all these three different requirements. If you don't, or if that adjective doesn't fulfill at one of them, then it's called peripheral. Examples: big, morphological inflection. Can I say bigger? Yeah. Can I say biggest? Yeah. Can I use it attributively? Big house. Yes. Can I use it predicatively? Predicatively, like in, for example, this is big. Perdón. Can I use it predicatively? Yeah, I can say this is big. I am big. Descriptive meaning. I don't agree that much with this idea because I think that every single, as I already said, right, every single adjective is providing a characteristic for an entity. So when they say descriptive meaning of, obviously, it is quite obvious that an adjective will describe an entity. So I don't get that much, right? So all over again, all over again. For example, we're going to try to find out whether the adjective big is central or peripheral, right? I can say big, bigger, and biggest, so morphological inflection positive. I can say big house, therefore attributive role positive. I can say I am big, therefore predicative role positive. I can describe people, yeah, because it's an adjective, and I can grade it. I can say very big, yes, I can say very big. Therefore, it's gradable, and as it fulfills the entire all the whole criteria, right? Then we're going to consider it as a central adjective. On the other hand, beautiful, I can't put morphological inflection in it, right? Why not? Because it's a long adjective. I can't say beautifuler, right? And just because of that, we're going to say it's peripheral, right? Right. Over again, and as a summary, we can state that adjectives can be classified into central and peripheral adjectives, whether they are based on the fact that they can fulfill or complete certain criteria, right? The criterion is morphological inflection, attributive role, predicative role, descriptive meaning, and finally gradability. If you can fulfill all of them, then you're central adjective. If you miss one of them, you're peripheral. That's it. Okay, the formation of adjectives. This is also interesting. Using participial forms, adding word ending or derivational suffixes, or by compounding. We can create adjectives by both ing and ed participial forms can be used as adjectives. Amazing. Right? Amazing. By affixation, adding a negative prefix to an already existing participial adjective. Both of them can be placed in attributive or predicative syntactic roles. However, participial adjectives are usually encountered within attributive contexts. Well, that's interesting. So, for example, common ing participial adjectives, amazing, boring, corresponding, and so on and so forth. Common ed participial adjectives, advanced, advanced, alleged, armed, so on and so forth, right? Participial adjectives. What I have to say with this is the following is let's remember the existence of non-finite clauses. That is to say, we talked about this during the first term in this year. Let's remember the non-finite clauses and the existence of non-finite ing clauses and non-finite ed clauses. Why am I saying this? I'm saying this because, for example, I don't know, maybe you can mix, right? Or you can get confused whether the structure is an adjective phrase or a non-finite clause because of the presence of a participial adjective, right? Let's remember that participial adjectives are created out of verbs, right? And then they are usually used attributively, and that's good. Why? Well, because inside of noun phrases, adjective phrases, also, I mean, yeah, inside of noun phrases, to infinitive clauses, they tend to be post modifiers or complement. They don't tend, I've never seen any where any noun phrase where a premodifier, where a to clause might be, or an infinitive clause can be a premodifier, right? So the good point is that participial adjectives are usually attributive, right? So be careful with that. That's the whole point. Adjectives with derivational affixes formed by adding as adjective suffix to a noun or verb. Okay, nothing new. So if I put less to a noun, I create an adjective. Nothing new. Adjectives can also be formed by adding a negative prefix. Sensitive, insensitive. Yeah, nothing new. Just reading. Adjectival compounding. These are made from a combination of more than one word, obviously because they are compound. Adjective, 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 noun, and so on and so forth. The only one which is quite interesting is the idea of the reduplicative adjective, wishy-washy, roly-poly, goody-goody, which are quite old-fashioned, I think. Old-fashioned, and they have this sound thing, right? There's a name for that. They just sound funny, because probably because of that, they were used. In some cases, the individual item in a compound can be derived from other word, like for example, grayish from gray. Now we know. Good. Some compounds can be analyzed as two words if the hyphen was omitted. Highly sensitive. Yeah, obviously because you are breaking the orthographic rule, right? Adjectival compounds present a compact form of information. Often, alternative expressions would require a full clause, usually a relative clause. Thus, an attack that was motivated by racism, an attack that was motivated by racism becomes a racially motivated attack. Consider the following example from a news text. In a speech before the ballot, Mr. Kovac, whose career includes a stint as an economic advisor to Cuban leader Fidel Castro in the 1960s, said he was in favor of socially oriented market policies. Second, I agree with the principles of a market economy which are socially oriented, he told Parliament. Okay, the only interesting thing about this is the fact that apparently language tends to be economic. This is the economy of language. That is to say, we are usually trying to say or trying to provide the very same information, but by using less items, less effort. So more information, less effort. Therefore, we can reduce relative clauses, or perhaps we can reduce even bigger units, I might imagine. I don't know, but we can reduce units. and we can change them into adjectives, and that's interesting. The best example, I think, is the first one, not the ones with numbers, but the one in the paragraph. An attack that was motivated by racism is a racially motivated attack, right? So we changed from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 words. We can change them into 3. And that's interesting. Let's remember that. The economy of language. Another interesting thing. One type of compound is more common in conversation, the duplicative compound, wishy-washy, rarely poly. These compounds are different from the other compounds because the two parts rarely occur separately. They also usually play with sounds, which make them more suited to conversation. And I believe they are old-fashioned. Major points. Adjectives have certain typical characteristics in their form, meaning, and use. Central adjectives share all the characteristics. Peripheral adjectives, they vary in the extent to which they share the characteristics. Adjectives have two major functions, attributive and predicative. And finally, new adjectives can be formed in 3 ways: the use of participial forms, ing and ed, the use of derivational suffixes, less, and by compounding. And that's it. ¿Alguna duda? ¿No? Ya. Oh, estoy con la garganta apretadísima. Lo vamos a dejar hasta acá, así tomamos un break, nos tiramos de largo. Los 15 minutos que nos tendríamos que haber tomado los tomamos ahora. Les envié correo a todos, recuerden eso, a los que me deben algo.